All right, welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to be recapping UFC 313. That was the card that was this past Saturday. So 2 days ago, 2 days ago. I'm recording as of Monday. We'll be publishing this video today as well. So look, solid event. In terms of money, in terms of profit betting, I did very, very well. We'll go over that as we go through the results of the card. Overall, it was a relatively fun card. Not the best in the world. There's been much better cards, but also not the worst pay-per-view ever. We did lose two fights right before the card. We lost the Castaneda Gutierrez fight, and we lost the Curtis Blades Rizvan Cunha fight. And those were bummers. I mean, I wasn't super looking forward to either one, but the Cunha Blades fight, I would have liked to see it play out. And it seems like we are still going to get that fight for some reason. But either way, that was a little bit of a bummer, but no big deal. 10 fights, 10 on the card, nothing crazy. They got through it relatively quickly, had to kill some time, but let's go through it piece by piece. So, first fight was honestly a really fun one. It was a sloppy one, but it was fun. Ozzy Diaz versus Jordan Santos. I laid the chalk on Santos there. Terrible, terrible bet. I thought he won. I thought that he got a little bit slighted by the judges there. I don't know if I'd call it a robbery, but I think it was the wrong decision. But it was a close fight, and it's totally fair to give it to Ozzy. And it was a bad bet to bet Santos at minus 180 in a fight where he didn't really have an advantage anywhere. He was like a slightly better striker, and that's it. And Ozzy Diaz did a really good job. You know, I said that he wasn't a good minute winner. He proved me wrong there. He threw really high output through over 3 rounds. And his cardio looked pretty good for a 3-rounder, considering he threw like 50 significant strikes in round 2 and landed, and landed like another 40 or 50 in the 3rd round. So good for Ozzy Diaz, and we'll see both of them back. Interesting to see how they'll do in their returns after this fight. Ozzy Diaz, you know, maybe he is UFC caliber after all. Everybody was hating on him, but maybe Jordan Santos just isn't UFC caliber. We'll see. I think they're both. Ozzy Diaz isn't young, is he? No, he's 34, but I'm pretty sure Jordan Santos is still pretty young. Yeah, 27 years old, so he's got time. I'm not ready to say that he's like bad or anything. After that, we had Myron Santos versus Francis Marshall. Absolute robbery, and I mean, it was a really good bet to back Marshall. I ended up passing from a money line side. I was just like, I just feel like Santos is going to win despite the value being on the Marshall side. And, you know, Marshall should have cashed for people. People should have cashed that ticket. He 100% won that fight. I thought he won 30-27. I'd have to watch it back to make sure that's correct. But at worst, 29-28 Marshall. I don't know how you get to a Santos win there. But yeah, I feel terrible for anybody who had a Marshall play. I had fight goes the distance, so I was okay. I didn't care who won. I just needed it to go the distance, and it did. That was a good bet at minus 145. It's a bet that I would 100% make again. I think that fight goes the distance at a very high clip. But yeah, it just sucks for Francis Marshall. Now he's 8-3. He should be 9-2. So going to be interesting to see what they do with him after that. And Myron Santos continues with the streak, 15-1 now. Yeah, sucks for Marshall, but I think he'll come back. After that, we had Carlos Leal versus Alex Morono. What is there to talk about? Leal made easy work of Morono. I had Leal KO parlayed with Roofie KO. Both of those hit. So that was a nice little cash that I did for a half unit. Came out to like plus 259 or 58 on the parlay. And I had a half unit there. And Leal, yeah, like I said, just cooked Morono. I think Morono's done. After that, we had Bruno Ferreira versus Armin Petrosyan, just an absolute chaos mess of a fight. I had Petrosyan round 3 decision. He gets finished in the 2nd round, gets subbed off. I don't want to call it a meme, but it was a situation that probably doesn't happen at a high clip. But regardless, I don't know if any kind of money on Petrosyan was a good bet there. I think he's the better fighter, but he just got kind of, I don't know, it was a mess. And then the whole point deduction from the groin shots. Interesting how now they took a point after, what was it? It was two shots to the groin. Meanwhile, people are grabbing fences, poking eyes, no points. But the ref probably, I guess, did the right thing. I think by the rules, that's what they're supposed to do. Take the point in that situation to kind of, they do it to even it out after, you know, somebody's had damage done to their groin. They try to even it out by taking a point. So I get what he was doing. Seemed a little quick, but I guess that's for the best. You know, they should be enforcing these rules and everything, or why else do we have them, you know? But yeah, we can move on. After that, we had Joshua Van versus Ray Tsuruya. That was one of my most hype fights for the card. I was really looking forward to it. And it pretty much played out how I thought it might. I thought there was a few ways it would play out. That's why the only bet I had there was Tsuruya sub. I felt like Tsuruya could sub him. I felt like Van could win in the third round. I thought Van could win a decision. I said that if you're betting Van, I think round 3 decision is the way to do it. It was like -110, and yeah, he was able to stuff all the shots. That was my concern going into the fight. Was yeah, he showed really improved takedown defense against Durden, but that was a traditional wrestler. How's it going to look against a guy who's much less traditional with his entries, with his takedowns in Tsuruya? And he did really well. He stuffed everything from Tsuruya. Tsuruya really had nothing for him. Couldn't get him down. I don't think he got any takedowns. I think maybe he got one. And on the feet, he had nothing for Van. So Van just cooked. It was a good performance from Van, but both guys are going to have good careers. They're so young. Tsuruya is going to develop that striking. It's going to come. He's only 22 years old. He was a younger guy in that fight. And with Van, I think we're looking at a future champ, man. He's 23 years old, and he's already so good. And there was one glaring hole in the grappling, but that's kind of gone now. So how do you beat him now? Good question. Knock him out in the third like Charles Johnson, but he's a tough guy to beat, Joshua Van, and I'm really excited for his career, but I think Tsuruya is also going to have a good career. After that, we had the first fight of the main card. Mauricio Rufy knocks out King Green in the first round. It was pretty quick. Yeah, 2 minutes, and not much to say. I mean, I thought he would knock out Bobby. I had that parlay with Liao, the KO props. I just felt like Bobby's too old at this point. He's taken way too much damage, and his hands down style worked when he had the reflexes to roll with the punches and avoid shots, but that's going to go with age. And I think that's part of what we saw. And Rufy's just super fast, super powerful, really clean striker. And that was a beautiful, beautiful spinning kick and knocked out Bobby Green out cold. So great performance from Rufy. He called out, I think, Beneil Dariush. I'd be down to see that fight, honestly. That could be an interesting one. Let's test the grappling of Rufy. Let's see where he's really at. I think that would be a good step up. After that, we had Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Very glad that Lemos won because I would have looked like an idiot otherwise. I had a very, very passionate take that Lucindo was overrated, that this was too much of a step up. And I only played a unit because Lemos at the end of the day is kind of old. She's 37, 38 now. For the division, that's kind of old. But yeah, I didn't really expect it to play out that way. I thought that she would just stuff the takedowns and outstrike her, but she said, screw it. She's like, watch this. And she outgrapples Lucindo. And that was people's entire thing. They were like, oh, Lemos is so bad in the grappling. Lucindo's just going to throw her down. It's going to be so easy. Lemos was screaming, call the manager when she was when Andrade locked in that standing head and arm triangle. Man, such stupidity. Yes, because a body lock trip is going to work on every single opponent you have when you don't mix it up at all. That's going to be the way you win fights. Body lock trip. And because Andrade standing arm triangled somebody, that means that Yasmin Lucindo, who's 23 years old or 24 years old, not of the build of Andrade, is going to do the same. Exactly. Yeah. So I was very passionate that Lemo should get it done. I wish I went a little harder, but I'm glad that I'm being careful. Like I said, she's 38 at the end of the day. And if Lucindo won, it wouldn't have been the most shocking thing ever, but I'm glad to be right there. After that, Lucindo's going to be around. She's not going anywhere. She is a good fighter. I just think she's still super green. Yeah, she's 23 years old. Take time to develop her. There's no reason to rush her like this. If she beat Lemos, right, who is ranked number 5, so then we're just throwing her to the wolves. Because after that, the only ones you really have left are like Dern, Jandaroba, who else is up there? Yan Jianan, Wei Li, the champ. Who is she supposed to beat there? Maybe Dern, but even that, I'd pick Dern over her. So, yeah, I think Lucindo needs to develop. She will be something. She could be a future champ, but I think it's way too early. After that, we had Ignacio Bahamondes versus Turner. I had 2 units on Bahamondes. He pulled it off with that submission off his back. What was it? It was a triangle. Didn't see that playing out that way either. Didn't see him winning by sub. Everybody was screaming Turner sub. I thought that if anything, Bahamondes would win by decision or maybe like a later finish. But Turner got caught. It happens. And then he retired, Turner, which makes me kind of sad because I feel like he's still kind of young. How old is he? I don't even know if he's 30 yet. He's only 29. I feel like he could have a career still. Maybe move up to 170, fill in the frame. You're huge. You're 6'3". Technically, you're tall enough to go to middleweight if you wanted to, and he would still be taller than a ton of people at the weight class. So I don't know if he needed to retire, but he knows better than we do of what's going on, in his mind, what's going on with his life. So if he felt like that was the proper decision, then I support it. I like Jalen Turner a lot. I'm a fan. I always have been, and I wish him the best. And going to be interesting to see where Bahamondes goes from here. After that, we had Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Really, really fun fight, as everybody expected. Like that was the one fight where there was no way there was going to be a disappointment because look who's involved. Fiziev and Gaethje just don't have boring fights. And it certainly was not boring. It was a fun rematch. Gaethje got it done again. I didn't bet on a side because, again, I felt like it was very competitive and I felt like there were red flags on both sides. I decided to play fight goes, which was scary, but it's one of those spots that I like to target, wars where the price is kind of underpriced compared to where I think it should be because everybody thinks they're going to knock each other out, because everybody thinks they're going to go to war, and that means there will be a finish. But if they're durable, I like those angles to take the over instead of the under, and often you'll get a better price because of what everybody else is thinking, because they expect a war. And yeah, I got the fight goes, I think, at -130. It was a solid play in my opinion. There was that one moment, of course, that was very scary where Gaethje hit the uppercut and knocked Fiziev down. I thought for a second there the fight might be over, but he survived. And yeah, I was also concerned in the beginning of the fight when Fiziev was like on top. He had him like in like a reverse triangle situation. It was a very awkward position. I was shocked that they even got there, but that I was worried there, and I was worried with the uppercut. But overall, I think it was a solid play. And then the main event, Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. If you watch my betting content, I had a max bet on Ankalaev. I ended up making it a max bet right before the fights. I was 5.3 units deep before the fights, like a few hours before, and then I added one more unit to make it a max bet for me, which is about 6 to 7 units. It was 6.3 here. And yeah, he did well. He did very well. Now, I wasn't right about a lot of things that I said. I said that he would check leg kicks. He did not. I said that he would get takedowns. He did not. He did shoot. So I was right there. Everybody all week. He's not even going to shoot. He's not even going to shoot. He's not a wrestler. He shot what, 10 times? And now the narrative's changing, right? People hopped in my comments like, oh, but he didn't get any. Alex Pereira improved his takedown defense a lot. You got to give it to him. Are we going to just say like people are bad wrestlers because they can't get takedowns against people with improved takedown defense? So is Saruya and Ardurden, are they bad wrestlers because they couldn't really take down Van? Or are you just upset because your favorite fighter lost? Ankalaev couldn't get the takedowns, but the threat of them, in my opinion, still served a purpose. I think it's a really important thing to have the threat of the takedowns, to have the threat of the hands. I think those are the best fighters, the ones who can threaten both. And that will allow guys who don't have as good of striking as their opponents, that'll allow them to still compete. And with Ankalaev, I think that was part of the reason why he was able to outstrike Pereira. But I was right about something in my breakdowns. I said, even if he doesn't get the takedowns, I don't think he needs them. I said that I thought he could outstrike Alex Pereira, and that's exactly what he did. He outstruck Alex Pereira, and he won the decision. Mixed in some takedowns. They didn't work. He got it done on the feet. And now my favorite narrative, now after the fights are over, oh, Ankalaev only won because of the clinch. He's just clinching. He didn't even do anything with it. He clinched for 2 rounds, right? He didn't start clinching till the 4th round. And you can go look on your own. It's a fact. It's just a fact. I'm not making this up. He did not do much clinching at all until that 4th round. That's the first time he really started to clinch and cage push, right? And then he wins that round. And then he cage pushes in and clinches in the 5th round, and he loses that round on 2 out of 3 judges' scorecards, which I agree with. He lost that round, in my opinion. So how did he win? Because of clinching? If he only clinched for 2 rounds and only got one of them? How did clinching win him the fight? It didn't. He outstruck Alex Pereira. In my opinion, Alex Pereira had a terrible, terrible performance. I think that he went into that fight with his ego way too high. He thought that he's unbeatable. He thought that his leg kicks would be. I think he went into this fight knowing that if he could stuff the takedowns and then if he could land leg kicks, that he would win. I think that's what he thought going into the fight, that's all he needed. And he had the takedown defense on point, and he landed the leg kicks. But when the leg kicks didn't do damage, and when Ankalaev showed that he can strike and doesn't need to just wrestle, Pereira had nothing left. He got put on the back foot, didn't know what to do, didn't let it rip like he usually does. And Ankalaev got the win. I do think there's potential in a rematch for Pereira to win. After seeing how this one played out, I definitely think he could win a rematch. I don't think he will, but I think he can. But overall, it was a great performance from Ankalaev. I think anyone who bet him, like myself, did the right thing. That was a good play. Max bet, I think with the information I had, it was a good play, even a solid max bet, because like I said going into it, Pereira much older at this point, 38, durability starting to go. He did get hurt. Ankalaev competitive in the striking with wrestling upside. That was true. So I feel like my reads were correct, and that's why I went for the max bet. So I think it was a good max bet spot. Would I do it in a rematch? Probably not, but I'm also not going to get the same odds. He's not going to be an underdog this time around. So yeah, I'm happy with how it went. Ended up profiting a total of 9.31 units. So really, really good night. Gonna try not to lose it all this week. And that's it. That's UFC 313. So I don't think the main event was a robbery, not even close. I thought Ankalaev won 3-2. Think 4-1 is fine also, but I think I personally had a 3-2. And then the Santos robbery was rough. Feel bad for the Marshall backers. But yeah, overall, good card. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.